I'm here to talk about the broader national infrastructure and construction pipeline that we publish every year. This essentially is about £500 billion worth of projects and programmes across economic and social infrastructure, £500 billion of opportunities out there. Now, some of the responsibility for construction and infrastructure is devolved to the Scottish Government, but the £500 billion excludes that. So there are an awful lot of opportunities throughout the United Kingdom for Scottish suppliers and businesses here today to try and engage with that. Actually, we need the help of Scottish businesses to deliver this programme. We are currently spending around about £65 billion a year on transport, energy, water, waste, utility type projects across the majority of the UK. That means we have a significant demand for the goods and services skills of businesses up here. So what I want to talk to you today about is really explain what the pipeline is, why we produce it and who it's for, what does it say and how do you use it, but particularly for your businesses and for the skilled workers you have, how do you use that pipeline to identify potential opportunities? So the reason we actually publish the pipeline in the UK, and we've done it every year since 2011, so we spoke to businesses about 7 or 8 years ago, 300 or 400 businesses and academics and consultants and contractors, and said, you know, why aren't you investing in developing the skills, the tools and the products you need, that we need for our infrastructure projects across the UK? And they said to us, well, by and large, you don't tell us what's coming, and when you do tell us, we don't believe you because you keep changing your mind. So he said, what we try and do is gather all the information of planned investment in schools, in prisons, in hospitals, in highways, in rail, energy, across all of economic and social infrastructure, and start publishing a pipeline of opportunities so businesses understood where those opportunities were and how they might use them. So what I'm going to do is just talk through a little bit about the pipeline today. But actually one of the reasons we publish the pipeline, and it's a key part of both the broader UK government and the Scottish government, they have a real interest in infrastructure as a driver of growth. So we're investing in infrastructure, we get a boost from having better infrastructure services and goods, and we get a boost from the economic activity of constructing new assets around the country. It is something that is proven to boost productivity and competitiveness, and it does allow us to attract investment from private sector as well as public sector funded places to get better money in to deliver better services. And the reason we invest in it is not to give purely for the sake of businesses or investors, it's to deliver better goods, better services, better outcomes for citizens of the United Kingdom. It helps us develop a more broader skills base in the UK, rather than relying on imported labour, as we have done quite a lot in London, particularly to deliver some of the big projects there. It provides opportunities for businesses and clients to understand each other's needs and work better together to develop new products, new goods, new tools, new services to deliver these. And of course, investing in projects like a transport infrastructure unlocks further land for housing, for businesses, for regeneration. So economic infrastructure, social infrastructure is about delivering better goods and services for the users and for the citizens. And it's also about creating a market where businesses can invest and develop their products and skills to deliver it. So we started off in 2011 with the first proper national infrastructure plan and a pipeline. And we've been publishing things every year, sometimes twice a year. Now, of course, documents that are published by the Treasury, a lot of people in the Treasury believe that when you publish a document and put it on your website, everyone reads it, understands it and welcomes it. That isn't necessarily the case, or even remotely the case. So part of what we've got to try and do is when we are publishing information about £500 billion worth of investment opportunity in projects and programmes throughout the United Kingdom, our job is to go out and about on the road to make sure people understand where those opportunities are, how they can access them moving forward. So we publish the last document we published, the last pipeline we published was in December last year, and we'll be doing a further update to the pipeline before the end of this year as well. Now, by and large, we publish a large spreadsheet, which isn't particularly user-friendly, but we also publish a lot of documents alongside that try and explain what the investment is and where it is. So In the pipeline we published last year, we had about £300 billion worth of projects and programmes between December last year and the end of 2021. About 60 odd billion pounds a year in transport, in energy, in social infrastructure and in utilities. So there's a significant number of projects and programmes, around about 700 in there, and they range from a school to High Speed 2, a whole range of different opportunities. And what we do with the information that we publish is we try and identify where there are opportunities to access the projects and programmes that come out of that. Now we have to recognise actually, unlike perhaps some of the clients who are here today, much of our infrastructure across the UK is financed by the private sector. So it's not through the government or through local authorities. It's from organisations like the water utility companies or National Grid and others, through which a lot of these projects and programmes come out. So part of the reason for trying to put a level of detail into the pipeline is not just about a big number. 500 billion is a big number, but it's about the detail of who is procuring, when they're going to market, when the projects are going to be in construction as it goes through. And of course, funding and finance, you can see different sectors of the economy. At the bottom, social infrastructure is almost exclusively funded by the public sector. Transport, again, largely funded through the public sector. But areas like water and waste, these are projects that are financed through regulated utilities and private sector companies. So if businesses need to know not just what the project is, but who is procuring it, and it gives you an understanding of the scale of investment by individual clients and getting to understand what their needs and what their drives and what they're looking to procure and how they're looking to engage with suppliers. And we also set out a map when we publish the pipeline. So all of the projects and programmes are loaded onto a map on the website, so you can start to interrogate what projects are happening where. Now, as ever, there seems to be quite a lot happening in London and the South East, and perhaps less in Scotland. And part of the reason for that on this map is the pipeline we publish is those things that are not devolved responsibility to Scottish Government. So Scottish Government publish their own website and their own pipeline. This is just those areas, for example, energy, which is not a devolved area of the infrastructure that sit in the pipeline. So we're picking up offshore wind, some of the grid and power transmission projects throughout the country. So you have the opportunity to interrogate the map to say, show me projects that are happening in the north of England and Scotland that are coming to market in the next couple of years. Projects that aren't in construction yet. And of course, recognising that many clients will procure directly with major contractors, tier 1 contractors, it's also an opportunity for tier 2s, tier 3s, SMEs to understand what projects are coming to market and start to offer their goods and services to both the tier 1s and the clients as well. So there's an opportunity to look at the map to see what's coming up, where and when. Now, what we try and do with this pipeline, and there's an awful lot of data that's collected from a number of different sources, is not to list projects that are completed, but actually projects where we believe there are still opportunities for businesses to deliver. So we still include the last part of Crossrail, for example. So the Crossrail project in London, £14.5 billion capital programme. The majority of that has already been spent, but there are still opportunities this year and next for small businesses to get in there and finish it. And equally, there's projects that are starting in 2 or 3 years' time for which contracts have not been let yet. So there's a mixture of types of projects, but what we don't include in the pipeline are projects that aren't funded, haven't got approval to go ahead in any shape or form, or are complete. So, for example, our pipeline does not include the proposed development of additional runway at Heathrow. Even though that's a project that looks like it's moving forward in an orderly manner, it hasn't yet secured the full approval to go ahead. So we're not putting in a wish list into our project, into our pipeline. What we're putting up is real projects that are likely to go ahead at the times we say. And we recognise that the pipeline isn't perfect. As we know, projects sometimes move to the left or to the right, generally to the right. But actually what we said we wanted to do and what businesses said to us is, we would rather have something that is good but not perfect than nothing at all. Actually, that visibility and certainty is what we want to get out there, because we are really interested in building the appetite of businesses to want to be engaged with this forward pipeline of work. About 60% of the pipeline that we've published now is part of an active programme or a project that's in construction, and 40% is the work that's coming up soon. This is in the period to the end of the decade. So some of the big contracts have been let at a tier 1 level, but the opportunities are still there for goods and services at a tier 2 or tier 3 level. And equally, some of those projects are sitting as part of large programmes, a 5-year regulated settlement for a water company, for example, that present opportunities for multiple projects throughout the year, throughout the 5-year period. So this is a very small cut of a very small part of the pipeline. So the pipeline itself has about 60 or 70 columns. So it tells you the sector, transport for example, subsector might be highways, and then it might be talking about subgroups that sit within that. So you can filter for those types of projects that are relevant or you believe are relevant to your business. It will tell you the name of it, who the client is, when it is due to start construction, what its value is, where it is, everything that you can need. So we even put postcodes in for every project so so businesses can understand what's happening near them or in their target markets that may be throughout the United Kingdom. So there's a lot of information in there, and it's quite difficult to digest by just looking at a massive spreadsheet. So what we try and do is provide that ability to filter and publish documents alongside it. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour through what the pipeline is. I think more importantly is then how it might be used. So it is refreshed annually. So every single year it's updated with the latest information we have. That information is based on committed government spending plans, private sector projects that have planning permission and investment and are going ahead, and the regulated utilities as well. So we expect this year again to get about 700 or 800 projects and programmes in there. That will include schools, prisons, hospitals, highways, energy projects, and so on. So it picks up investment in offshore wind off the northeast coast of Scotland, as well as offshore wind projects happening off Humberside, as well as power transmission programmes in the southwest or North Scotland. Importantly, what businesses said they want from this is not just a big number. They want that granularity that allows them to understand where there might be opportunities. So if you provide a particular service that could be used on a school or a prison or a hospital or a railway station, that's the sort of area where you can start interrogating the pipeline. And what we always want to have is feedback from the people who use the pipeline to find out whether it is indeed any use to them at all. It's a lot of effort to publish it, and we don't want to do it if no one's using it or it is no value. So it's really important that people who are using it or find it difficult to use let us know so we can try and improve it. It will never be perfect. And it's an awful lot of information to look at if we're not using it or allowing you to filter it in a way that is useful to you as a user. We don't want to spam you up with loads and loads of information that is useless. We would rather try and give you useful information that you can use to plan how you want to take a business forward, how you want to engage with clients or suppliers who are engaged in a very large programme of investment moving forward. We recognise that also that many businesses like to operate within a particular sector or within a particular region. Others might want to operate nationally or internationally across all sectors. But actually having the ability to filter, if you're only interested in supporting a schools programme in the north of England, you can do that in terms of a filter from the pipeline. If you want to look at any building project anywhere in the UK that's coming up in the next 5 years, you can do that as well. But actually we find that a lot of the big businesses that we engage with in London are saying to us they're using that to plan their national and regional strategies and their investment plans for developing the skills in their workforce moving forward. To them, it's a sign of confidence that there is a sustainable forward investment pipeline. We know where it's happening and when it's happening, and they can use that as a basis for business planning. So we've seen a number of businesses make investment decisions based on what we said in the pipeline. So that's really important to us that we make sure we provide good quality data that is useful and stands up to scrutiny. You may have seen Heathrow as an example of a major project at the moment, which isn't in our pipeline as a part of the £500 billion, but when it gets approval, it will go into the pipeline as one of those projects and programmes. But one of the things they have said is they think it's going to be very difficult for them to build the third runway and the new terminal facilities at Heathrow by employing everyone working on site delivering it. If they do that, they're going to put in huge pressure on the local skills in that area. They're going to make it very difficult to run an operational airport with a huge amount of construction activity going on. So they have recently gone out to market for expressions of interest for logistics hubs. So they want to build a lot of their facilities off-site, and they want to encourage businesses to agglomerate around where those hubs are going to be, the logistics centres. And they have said, their market has said they want to go out and find probably 3 logistics hubs that are going to do a lot of the off-site construction for Heathrow. They're going to have probably 2 in England and 1 in Scotland. So they've already committed to having a logistics hub in Scotland to support the development of a £30 billion, whatever the number is, project in the southeast. And what they want to do is try and develop, in the same way that automotive does. When a big facility is put together for a Nissan or a Jaguar Land Rover, around it grow businesses that provide services to that. And also, not just that, but they're also looking to see if there are other major projects and programs who want to take advantage of hubs where there is strong manufacturing goods, products and services being provided to it. So if Heathrow do indeed set up a logistics hub in Scotland, it is likely that other major infrastructure clients may want to tap into that facility and the businesses that are supporting Heathrow for other projects and programs. So really, I mean, the purpose of publishing the pipeline is not because we like producing big spreadsheets. It is to provide useful information to businesses. It is a tool for businesses to invest if they have the confidence and the certainty of what's coming, and that's our job, to try and build that confidence and certainty. But actually what we want to do is make the pipeline more granular, so we can identify particular opportunities that may be of interest to businesses, and it's for businesses to tell us what they want, not for us to tell them what they need. So if businesses are telling us what they think will be useful to them, they're the things we could consider putting into the pipeline. So overall, if we are publishing a pipeline every year, setting out the opportunities, we want businesses to be looking at that and saying, we need these skills in the future if we're to meet this demand. It isn't a series of short, one-off, stop-start pieces of investment happening in a region. It is an opportunity to look wider at the goods and services that can support projects, not just in Scotland, but throughout the whole United Kingdom. So many Scottish businesses are supporting projects in London already, and throughout England as well. What we want to see is more of that engineering capability and the goods and products and services delivered up here, supporting projects elsewhere. There is a huge market for infrastructure investment in the United Kingdom. Now, at the moment, we spend on economic infrastructure that is publicly funded, which is mainly transport and flood defence type projects. We spend about 0.8% of GDP investing in those projects and programs. We have established the National Infrastructure Commission, who have a job to look at that long-term, what infrastructure do we need to 2050? Where do we want to be? What do we need from our transport networks, our energy networks, our utility networks to support the growth of the United Kingdom in the future? And we've given them a fiscal remit of operating between 1 and 1.2% of GDP. So perhaps up to 50% more investment is going to be happening in infrastructure from the public sector in the UK. We spend about 0.4% of GDP on social infrastructure, on schools, prisons, hospitals, social housing. So we could be going from about 1.2 in total public to about 1.6, and that's a huge increase in investment. And it's going to be really difficult to deliver that if we haven't got the right skills and the right businesses supporting it moving forward. So the plea here today is there is a pipeline. It's an impenetrable spreadsheet if you look at it first time. But that pipeline then is an opportunity for you to see what's coming and how it may be of use to you. Now, I could give you a detailed demonstration of how the pipeline works, but quite frankly, that's going to be of no interest to me or anyone in this room. But I'm very happy to take any questions if you'd like to know a bit more about the pipeline or how it may indeed be used. The question for those in here is, at what level is the pipeline at? Is it something that's aimed at the contracts that are let between the client and the tier one contractors, or does it go down to the individual packages that may be let to SMEs? It's actually the former. But what we do with all public sector projects that are on there, we have the various portals that we are requiring the Tier 1 contractors to advertise the opportunities on. And what we think the pipeline, when we've spoken to SMEs and how it is useful to them, even if it isn't listed on one of the lines within the spreadsheet, a particular package that they can bid for, the fact that they know in 2 years' time this project is due to start construction alerts them to an opportunity in advance, just waiting for something to appear on a procurement notice that may be coming out, which often means you have to respond very quickly without much forward planning. The idea in terms of how SMEs and product suppliers are able to engage with this is knowing where the opportunities are that may be relevant to their business. It allows them to be prepared for where those opportunities come in. So, for example, if there's 200 schools being built in the north of England in the next 3 years and you're supplying schools, that's a helpful thing to know in advance so you can start thinking about planning. And in England, just as an example, we have 24,000 schools in England, just England alone. They have an average design life of 60 years, so we need to replace 400 a year. We've also committed to building 100 new free schools, so that's 500 a year. So about 1.5 schools a day have to be constructed in England. So if you're supplying to education market, in terms of an SME supplying there, that's a helpful thing to know, that there are 500 schools a year being built, for example. Well, thank you very much.